Hey, I hope you're having a fantastic day. I just wanted to check in, ask how all of you guys are doing. Hope you guys are doing fantastic. I'm doing really well, probably the best I've been in a very long time. Finally getting a few things together, and I'm becoming more consistent with uploading and, all of that good stuff. But I'm going to keep it short, and I just wanted to say hi, and I wanted to say that I really appreciate all the love and support that you guys give all the time. But please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Helps me out, it helps the channel out, and every single waking moment we're growing bigger and bigger, thanks to all of you. But without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy today's stories. Thank you so much for tuning in. Back when I was 12, I had really bad sleep paralysis. Almost every night without fail, I would go to sleep just to wake up a few hours later, completely unable to move. My bed was facing the doorway at the time. Every time I had sleep paralysis, a tall, dark figure with a top hat and a pocket watch would stand at my doorframe and watch me. I knew he had a pocket watch because it dangled from his pants and I could always hear the tick of the seconds going by. This entity gave me really bad vibes, so this alone freaked me out. I talked with my therapist at the time and my PCP, and I was prescribed sleeping medication, and my sleep paralysis soon stopped. When I was 15, I started dating this really toxic guy. I was in a relationship with him for a dreadful 2 years. At some point, I think about a year and some odd months in, me and him are sitting in my room playing Minecraft. About 30 minutes into playing, he looks into the hallway outside of my room and just instantly starts bawling. I had never seen this guy cry before. After about 15 minutes of him crying and freaking out, I got him to finally speak to me. He explained to me that a tall, dark figure with a top hat and pocket watch told him that he needed to leave me alone or he'd off his entire family. I never once told him about my sleep paralysis, let alone told him about the entity that would visit me during it. So, yeah, that creeped me out a lot. I ended up telling some of my friends about it, and they all were pretty weirded out by it too. But whatever, right? Crazy coincidence. Whenever I would bring up the entity, I called him James. No clue why, but that's just the name I felt belonged to him. However, there has always been strange things happening at our house. A random, weird smell, things moving, my door shutting, knocking, you name it. A few days ago, I decided to tell my grandfather, who I live with, about my experiences with this entity while one of my friends were over at the house. My grandfather got this confused look on his face and said, a pocket watch? His name is James? I told him yes, and he said nothing else, then went downstairs. Me and my friend looked at each other and we were like, okay. Then about 10 minutes later, he came back upstairs with a box. He opened the box and proceeded to pull out a pocket watch with the name James W. Cunningham engraved on the back of it. My jaw dropped and I was speechless. He proceeded to tell me that the pocket watch belonged to his grandfather and gave it to him before he passed. I still can't wrap my head around this fully. What are your guys' thoughts? Should I try to contact him after all these years? I've had 2 experiences in my lifetime so far. Currently in my 30s, most recent was about 2 years ago. I lived alone in 1-bedroom apartment in California. A couple weeks leading up to the event, I kept having a feeling I was being watched as I laid in bed before falling asleep. Then one night, I woke up just past 3 a.m. and I had a feeling I was being watched again. I lifted my head off the pillow and looked towards my door, and immediately I felt a hand smack the side of my head and pushed it back into the pillow. Completely freaked me out. I jumped out of bed and turned on every light, ran around my whole apartment and found nothing. I was alone. However, my first experiences happened when I was around 12 years old. My family and I, mom, dad, and sister, had just moved into a new house in Colorado. The weird stuff started happening on the first night in the new house. I had a bunk bed at the time. Top bunk was the bed and the bottom was a desk. On the first night, shortly after I got into bed, I felt the whole bed starting to shake. It felt as if someone was grabbing one of my bedposts and was violently shaking the bed with their hands. It lasted about 5 or so minutes. This happened every single night that I slept in that bed in that house. I tried explaining to my parents what had happened, but they brushed it off like I was crazy. Never believed me. A few months after moving into the house, my alarm clock would start going off at random times in the middle of the night, and always at a different time. My dad was getting furious at me waking him up, but at that point in my life, I never used my alarm feature on that clock. Not one time had I ever physically turned on the alarm. As much as I pleaded with my parents, they never believed me. I should also add that my sister had an identical bed in her own separate room and never experienced her bed shaking or anything else weird. We only lived in that house for about 1.5 years, and immediately after, moving, all of those experiences stopped. That bed never shook again. Alarm never went off again. Years later, my dad would admit that he experienced some weird things in the house as well. Never brought it up for fear of embarrassment. On one particular night, he heard a loud noise in the hallway in front of my room. Being a work night, he was pretty upset, thinking I was messing around late at night and had woke him. He got up out of bed and peeked his head out the door. He swears he saw a shadowy figure standing in front of my door. Completely freaked him out, and he immediately jumped back into bed. Made me question him why he never believed me when I was telling him all the stuff going on in my room at the time. I think he just refused to believe anything like that could ever be real or possible. Those are my experiences with the weird or paranormal. I have only told a couple people outside of my family, unsure of how people would react or treat me. I figured this could be a safe place to finally express what I've dealt with. She told me this story a long time ago, and so did my aunt to confirm it. She went to an all-girls school back then, but the weird part, first of all, was the school was built in the middle of a graveyard. Well, they claimed to have moved the dead bodies, but I don't think so. It was a boarding school, and my mom said every night they would hear voices of people talking, horses running, children laughing and playing. By the way, they lived far from town, so they weren't other buildings or kids or horses close by. My mom said it was so terrifying for them that no one could leave their rooms and girls would end up wetting the bed out of fear of going outside. But no one judged them because they could understand. My mom said one time she dared to step out and saw all of the tapes running and voices of people chatting. She ignored it and went to shower and said she felt something hit her so hard she didn't even know how she ended up in the back of her room. My aunt said one time she tried to run away from home just because she didn't want to go to school. She didn't even know how my mom was calm during that time, because she would always freak out each time she heard school had resumed and would cry, and her parents would have to drag her into the car. And she is older than my mom, but you would think she was the younger sister. When they tried to tell their parents, no one took it seriously, and they said they were probably just scared for nothing or just looking for an excuse not to go to school. She said they had to go through all this for years, and she said the worst of it was when a few students, not at the same time, got possessed, and they had a struggle between staying indoors with someone that they could or would harm them, or go outside and be around weird noises and sounds. She said only the dorm master, or matron, knew what they were going through, but even she did nothing. But I'm guessing maybe the school told her to pretend she didn't know. I mean, if they admit the school is haunted, all parents would pull their kids out and they would lose a lot of money. Not sure when the school closed down, but it's no longer being used. Maybe things got out of hand and eventually they couldn't stop pretending it wasn't haunted. Who knows? The house that I lived in has a big window in the kitchen, and it gives you a pretty good view of most of our backyard. Well, a few months after we moved in, I started seeing and hearing something lurking behind the trees that lined the yard. I didn't think anything of it. I'm pretty used to seeing weird stuff happening. About a year ago, I would start hearing light tapping and knocks on my door and door window to my bedroom. This went on almost every night for about 5 or 10 minutes, then silence for another few months. Then a week ago, I would see the shadow of someone standing in my kitchen, and it would disappear after you looked at it. I wouldn't have just been fine if I didn't hear the metal chair get shoved across my room in the middle of the night. Now its shadow appears in my room, and the knocking on my door is back. I really want to get a reaction out of it so I could get some more proof, but I'm unsure of how to piss off a spirit. Any tips? I am a shaky believer. I have had strange things happen, but I'm usually able to debunk or rationalize things. 2 things have happened before this incident I haven't been able to explain. I honestly need and am looking for advice or similar experiences. This just happened. I'm a 22-year-old girl. I was laying in bed on my phone waiting for my partner, who is 24, to join me in my bed after leaving the restroom. For context, our bed is pushed into the corner of our room. We do have a cat, but she was laying near my head. I was lying on my side, back to the wall, facing the rest of the room with my phone in my face. Room light was off, but plenty of street lamps shine in and light the room. We don't have curtains, only blinds, and we sleep with the windows cracked open. I didn't hear my boyfriend leave the restroom, but I thought he walked up to the side of the bed. I saw a shadowy figure in the dark that was about his height and build, standing in a weird way. Arms kind of out to its sides, elbows next to the bed. I thought it was just my boyfriend goofing around and trying to scare me. He likes to do that. I turned my bright phone around to try and annoy him, but there was literally no one standing there. I thought I just imagined it since I was expecting him, but I turned on my phone light to light up the room better while I continued to watch videos on my phone. This way I wouldn't be surprised or spooked by him in the first place. My boyfriend was still in the bathroom. I felt a touch on my leg. I jerked my leg up and shined my light towards the end of the bed, and trying to be rational, I went back to my phone to brush it off. No cats though, just me and my blanket. Before I could even feel better about it, I felt a second, longer touch that physically scrunched up the blanket against my leg. That was enough for me. I shot up, and despite how scared I was, I hurried out of the bed to turn the light on. I knocked on the bathroom door and told my boyfriend to hurry, because at this point I was having a hard time being by myself. I barely believe in ghosts, mind you, but in that moment something invisible touched me. Trying to rationalize, I went back into our room to sit with our cat. As soon as I sat down, I heard a woman outside, in the distance but still unnervingly close, start screaming. I froze. It It was hard to decipher what she was trying to say, but I caught two things: help me and he's after me. No one was outside, and even if they were screaming, stopped as soon as it started. I pulled up my phone to call 911, and that was when my boyfriend left the bathroom and saw me shaking like a leaf. I have the cross-country road trip coming up next month. I'm anxious but excited for it. That is the only major change recently in my life. I saw a shadowy figure, then two touches on my leg, one moving my blanket. Heard a woman screaming outside near immediately after. No woman outside. Was this a warning? Has someone gone through this? I don't think I'm mostly skeptic anymore and would like advice. I have a major trip coming up. I doubt it's related, but could it be? Thank you everyone for listening. If your story was told, I'm glad I'm the one who could tell it. I appreciate all the love and support, and I hope you enjoyed listening to today's stories as much as I did reading them. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me and it helps the channel out very much. Thank you.